Hello, my name is Michelle Henley. I am the Reserves Manager for the Scottish Wildlife Trust, covering the northern region of the Highlands and Islands. I am pleased to present today one of the CALLP projects carried out on our Ben More Coigach Wildlife Reserve, upgrading the Postman's Path. I will begin by telling you about Ben More Coigach and the Postman's Path, and the important upgrade work which was carried out on this iconic route, thanks to the CALLP project and partners. Ben More Coigach is a vast mountainous landscape of crofted and wild land. It is the Trust's largest reserve, encompassing over 6,000 hectares of high peaks, heath, bog and spectacular coastline. The mountain Ben More Coigach was traditionally known as the Rock and stands 743 metres high. The rock is comprised of Torridonian sandstone laid down around 1,000 million years ago. The coast of the Coigach Peninsula is made up of crofted fields because here the land is richer than on the hills. Traditionally, hay, oats and potatoes were grown using seaweed as a fertiliser, whilst the rougher hill land was used as grazing for cattle, sheep and horses. Crofters combined work with other skills such as weaving and blacksmithing, and small boats were used for transport and fishing. Today, many fields are now sheep pasture, and numerous crofters have diversified into other employment, such as small-scale tourism and other off-croft occupations and activities. The Postman's Path skirts the seaward side of Ben More Coigach, stretching for about 7 miles or 11 kilometres along the coast between Acknowledgments and Blousery, taking in magnificent coastal views. Traditionally, the path continued onwards over the hill to CALLP. Before the road was tarred in the 1960s, people would come to the Coigach communities by boat or by walking one of 3 traditional routes over the hill, which was known as the Rock Path or Taking the Rock. Anne Campbell, local resident and the CALLP crofting officer, tells us about the history of the path.
The route now known as the Postie's Path used to be referred to in Taking the Rock. There were 3 paths originally, 3 routes, and the middle one was the most traversed, regarded as the easiest and the less dangerous. It was used a lot to take cattle and sheep to the faraway markets. Before there was a church here in Coigach, the people used to gather at the meeting stone in Achterbury above the Samarias Hotel to take their long journey to Clachan Church, and that was the nearest church for people to go to from here. Sometimes people in CALLP would give them a lift in their boat to finish the final part of the journey to Clachan. There's only a few cairns now to remain for evidence of that path, but someone found, not that long ago, someone found a horseshoe as evidence of a path being used. There's the story of a brave father who went to CALLP, he went through the rock to CALLP to get medicine for his sick child. The lower route that skirts the coast was regarded as the most difficult and dangerous. It's now referred to as the Postie's Path in honour of the postman that used to use the path. In the 1860s, there was a regular postal service between Achterbury and CALLP, and the man who was awarded the contract, Kenneth McLennan from Blairbury, would walk from Blairbury all the way to CALLP twice a week, and he was able to do that in one day during the summer, in the long days of summer, but in the winter he would have to stay overnight. For that he was paid the princely sum of 2 shillings and 3pence, and which equates about 11 pence in today's money. Doesn't sound like an awful lot of money, but it would have been a regular income for him as a crofter. The section of the path from Coigach to Achduirt was not originally part of the path that was regarded as taking the rock. This was added in the 1870s for the children to be able to walk to the school in Achduirt. In fact, my granny told me stories of when she went to school there, that in the winter she would have to take a piece of peat with her every day to heat the school.
The Postman's Path, or Postie's Path, is a much loved and popular walk for locals and visitors. It crosses difficult and challenging ground. We recognised that some sections of the path were quite degraded and required considerable repairs and improvements to increase its accessibility to a wider range of users, whilst protecting the coastal environment, wildlife, and the natural beauty of the area. It is also quite easy to go off course, and some people were getting lost or confused along the route. The mountain section of the path in particular needed clearer waymarking to keep people on track and to maintain the path in a suitable wildland condition by ensuring that people do not take alternative routes, because this can cause erosion scars across the landscape and can cause damage to sensitive habitats and disturbance to wildlife. The Scottish Wildlife Trust coordinated the path upgrade work as a project of the Coigach and Assynt Living Landscape Partnership. The path improvement work was completed by ACT Heritage and managed by the Outdoor Access Trust for Scotland, and was carried out in a manner that is sensitive to the landscape, people and wildlife. For example, the photo on the left shows stone pitching, which is a traditional surface technique used on upland paths in Scotland, ensuring the path is well surfaced to keep people en route, but which is in keeping with the surrounding landscape so that it does not diminish the visitor experience of being in an upland and unspoiled landscape. To further ensure the work was in keeping with the upland landscape, local stone from Coigach was used, and this had to be collected and transported by helicopter to key areas along the path, whilst the contractor team walked in and used hand tools to carry out the work. New drainage features were also formed along the route, and a number of waymarkers were installed to help guide walkers along the path. The number of people who use the footpath and annual trends, for example, whether they walk the whole length of the path, the peak time, day, month of use, is not known. So we installed a people counter to monitor use and footfall. Understanding footfall numbers and trends is useful for scheduling maintenance work and provides important information for future funding proposals. We also installed 2 interpretation panels on stone plinths, which provide information about the postman's path, safety, local wildlife and history, to allow people to discover more about this special area. We engaged a number of volunteers in this project who helped with practical tasks, including improving drainage features, cutting back vegetation to keep the route clear, installation of new waymarkers, and painting existing waymarkers. The volunteers developed new skills in footpath maintenance and remote outdoor working. The Scottish Wildlife Trust staff and volunteers will continue to look after the path through an ongoing programme of maintenance work. Our volunteer work parties have engaged local volunteers, as well as volunteers from further afield, in looking after this footpath, which plays an important part of the heritage and landscape of Coigach.
The Trust are delighted with these footpath improvements, which means the route is now safer and easier for walkers to navigate. These upgrades have provided increased recreational opportunities for the local community and visitors, promoting good health and well-being. We hope these improvements will allow more users to enjoy and experience walking the Postie's path. I hope you enjoy the upgraded Postie's path, and please remember that this footpath crosses steep, boggy and difficult upland terrain, and you should always be properly prepared and equipped for a full mountain day.
The Scottish Wildlife Trust would like to thank our partners, funders and supporters, the CALLP project team, the National Heritage Lottery Fund, Ramblers Scotland, ACT Heritage, the Outdoor Access Trust for Scotland, EB Scotland and the Scottish Landfill Community Fund, the Highland Council and our neighbours at Keenahoolish Estate. We also thank the local community and to all those past, present and future who take the rock.